You are watching the number one podcast in the whole entire youth wrestling community, and I'm one of your hosts, Juanzo.
And I'm your other host, Jean-Paul Leck.
Together we are Road Break. And like every single time that there's a new episode of the Broken Skull Sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin, we're back. This time we're going to be talking about Jean-Paul's favorite like wrestler, and also our wrestler of the year in the female category, Bayley. So we hope that all of you are going to enjoy this, because it's a good conversation just about what we learned and the stuff that we already know. So, we're going to be talking about that, and we hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to, check this out. Moose says I quit, our Genesis Impact Plus review. Pretty good pay-per-view, I will say, like just to get us ready for what is going to be a hard to kill. And, we love this I Quit match. A lot of people praise it. I think Impact is actually moving in the right direction, presenting good wrestling and good storytelling.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this pay-per-view. I mean, the Super X Cup was really good, but the main thing for me was just that I Quit match, because it's like, screw this match. As long as I'm getting my title shot, yeah, I quit. And I think we're looking at the next Impact World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, it is. And, that's the one thing that I want to say. Like, these guys, they're giving us great wrestling. So we're really happy about that. So, let's go right to it, Paul. Let's go right to it with the action. And Stone Cold Steve Austin, won another episode, and this time with one of, everybody's favorite, Bayley. And that's how he opened the show. He showed this picture, and I'm pretty sure that we all loved it. There you go. Number one wrestler according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I agree with that. I don't think that, nobody had a better year than Bayley. I think she deserves it more than anybody. Sasha was number 5. I mean, according to the other places, she's number 1. But for me, I enjoy this, and now we get to hear about Bayley's story. What did you know that you didn't know before? What did you learn from this interview?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that's kind of the complaint of the episode. I mean, not too much. You learned kind of maybe the ins and outs. We watch so much wrestling, maybe we don't pick up some stuff. But Bayley even said, back, it was almost 2 years in the making was this heel turn. Just kind of the fans, they didn't really buy the gimmick that she was down in NXT on the main roster around 2017. And, she felt the change was coming. But, it's lots of stuff. A main focus of this, they talked about her relationship with Sasha and the TakeOver Brooklyn match. But then WWE did it Untold on this match. So we learned actually more in that Untold than we learned here in this interview. So, that whole big portion was kind of stuff you already know, stuff that was just being reinforced. I mean, I guess the one thing from that is I always thought her and Sasha were, really close, and she was like, Sasha was more close with Becky and Charlotte, and then eventually after Brooklyn is when we kind of got closer.
You're right, because that was the one thing that I always knew, that they were friends from throughout the whole long run to becoming wrestlers and becoming girls in the NXT and all of that. So I think that that's the one thing that we found out from this interview. It was just that part that Sasha and Bayley became friends just because of the match that we saw.
And now, did you know Bayley was such when she talks about the beginning, she always liked wrestling, all this stuff, but did you know she was such almost, I guess you would say a mark, if you want to use a wrestling term, it just that's what I mean. That's all stuff I knew too. Maybe a lot of people didn't. I like that. She's I was in Oakland to see Rey Mysterio, and then drove to, I think it was San Francisco or something to see John Cena. So, I mean, that was cool, and I like how she said, the only girl in her wrestling school. So, you always saw that passion was there.
Yeah, the passion, like I said, a young Bayley cut in a promo in the WWE days, in the promo class of the NXT, and you saw there was producers, Dusty Rhodes were right there. So, how her character started developing, started with the hugs, everybody loved her, the match at TakeOver, the match at Respect, the Iron Man women's match that, also changed the course of what will be women's wrestling in the WWE. Thanks to these two girls, everybody started to believe more in giving the girls the treatment or to be actually wrestlers, ballets.
Yeah, which of these two matches do you actually like better? Because they brought it up, and not a lot of people bring it up because everybody's just oh, Brooklyn's so legit, and then nobody ever brings up really the second one, which I don't think the Iron Man match was better.
Oh yeah, if you want to tell a better story wrestling wise, is the Respect one. This one, one is so much better. Yes,
I think the first match was just good because it's Bayley won the title, and it was such a good moment, a feel good moment.
And if you think about it, or the spots that they did, the Hurricanrana that they did, and then Bayley to Bayley, everything that's set up. Because when you see this spot, everybody popped for that. Like the reverse.
Oh yeah.
Frankensteiner, like Sasha and Bayley, like the story. Remember, the hand was broken. Stone Cold and Bayley talk about that, but like you said, the main thing is because the crowd was so hot, and on top of that, she wins the title, and then she goes, crazy, and she had like one of the longest runs on NXT as women's champion, and then only be dethroned by Asuka. So that's what I like about that. Then remember, she goes back to the main roster, and then we get to see this promo that everybody was booing her. So there was a lot of concern. I remember actually watching that live when like she was booed, and everybody's like, "Oh, she sucks," and it's because remember, like her character only can go so much. You can only go.
Yeah, because they didn't push her. They always said like she's the female John Cena, but like John Cena was in the TLC matches. He was in the Hell in the Cells. He, he was the one who all the kids loved, but he could also be a badass and turn it on when you needed him to. And they never let Bayley do that. Like she said, okay, I won my Raw Women's title. Defended it at a 4-way. At WrestleMania. It was legit, but she's like, I wasn't ready. All this stuff, and then you get here. And she said they never put her in the legit matches. Like they never portray. That was always Sasha or Becky or whoever, or Charlotte or Nia, whoever. It was just like Bayley was. You heard all this stuff. Oh, she's the next going to be the number one babyface in the women's division, and then just no, she can just be like the side ponytail and the hugs, and that's pretty much like you said. She hit her ceiling.
Her ceiling
from their creative point, you could say.
Yeah, remember like when like she got that match with Alexa Bliss, and then they didn't want to give her the match. Remember, it was like a hardcore match, and she was supposed to use the candlestick, and she didn't use it. Remember
they made her like want to be like, that match was so awful. I actually remember watching that live, and I'm like, because I've always been a fan of Bayley, and I'm just like, I'm like, what is this?
Yes.
You're making her look like a loser. It should be like maybe she didn't want to do it at first. She gets hit once or twice. Then she gets, fired up and starts beating the shit out of Alexa. But, they portrayed her like shit. Remember they did that This Is Your Life, Bayley?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was even so bad.
Yeah. That's it's like they found ways to bury her. And were they expecting the crowd to be behind her, and that's what got her through it? But it's like if you bury somebody on TV, the crowd's not going to be behind them.
No, you're right. Like they tried that so many times, like to bury her, just to like get. And I want to say like get rid of her because she was always a good talent, but like they never gave her like anything good, like you said, never anything.
And think about it though, because she said this pretty much her whole career, and even though I'm a huge fan, I would say that this sticks true until she became a heel. She really didn't have a character.
Yeah, no, it was like the hugger. And
like NXT, she was like, oh, the super fan. Like, oh, she always says, oh, everybody's legit. Oh, like they said, they put her with Summer Rae. And she's like, oh, Summer Rae, you look good, nice hair, all this stuff. Like she was always just like a fan of everybody. The tassels, fan of Macho Man, all that stuff. But then, when they took her up to the main roster, it kind of lost a little bit of that. And then because, at the end of NXT, no, she was legit. She was the women's champion. She was the locker room leader. So she wasn't so much the super fan, the hugger. Tried to revisit that on the main roster, didn't work. And like you said, 2017, she cuts this promo. She's like, oh, my arm, all this stuff, the fan.
Yeah, she got dislocated her shoulder. Yeah. So that's why she's like, oh, like I'm going to be away for a little bit. Hey, thank you for the tweets, for the love, support, like kind of like,
Yeah, and then they start booing her. And then I like how she twisted though. And it's like, well, I'm not thanking you who are booing me, but I'm thanking all the ones whose tweets I read and all that stuff. And
exactly. So, like, I mean, like, you're right. She was very, very lost for like those 2 years in the main roster. She couldn't even get any momentum until like she got the tag titles with Sasha. I remember the first time. At least they were the inaugural ones that like had the belts, like they had the Elimination Chamber. Like she was always featured in the main matches. All the time. She was meaning like, for example, like the Elimination Chamber, and she was right there. Remember, like Money in the Bank, she was right there. Did she ever win? No. And everybody was just waiting for her to have the big win, the big break that like we all knew she could be there, but no. And like finally, she actually got really mad about it. And remember, like she wins Money in the Bank, wins the title, then goes to Charlotte, and then it was about time to twist it and make a new Bayley. And there you go.
I do like how Bayley says like, oh yeah, when I lost the SmackDown Women's championship, they made me throw this temper tantrum and look like a complete baby, like a spoiled brat on TV. And it's like I can't go out there and be woo and do the the hug.
No. Woo.
She's like I can't do. She's like I can't go out there and do all that shit. Like something needs to be different. Yes. If the fans don't hate me already, they're really gonna hate me now. So she comes out there, like we said. I think the hood was up or something. We couldn't really see the hair at first, but then once she destroyed those Bayley buddies, I remember both of us were like, okay, let's see where this goes.
Yes,
we were like, this is what you needed to do.
It was cool, and it was cool and needed, like you said, cool and needed. It needed to happen just because it was the perfect way to transition from heel to from babyface to heel. And like always, we've been saying this throughout the whole time we've been doing Road Break. Heel, it gives you no restrictions. And she said that. I have no restrictions. I can say whatever the hell I want to whoever I hell, even Stone Cold. And he asked, what's the thing with Michael Cole? Like the one she goes at each other. Like, he's like, oh, did you hear Michael Cole? Or like, keep saying it. Or like,
and I like it. She said, she's like, it's an empty arena. And that was, before Thunderdome and all that. She's like, you're having a match and who do you hear? The only person you hear is Michael Cole calling the match. Yeah. So she's like, if I'm standing on the apron and he's like, oh yeah, Bayley and Sasha, they're bullshit, of course I'm gonna fire back and be like, well, screw you. Yeah. So I mean, and she's like, it's the same thing with Drew. I don't think she said the exact words, but if you can connect with the fans, well, no, she did say like, oh, the fans said on Twitter or whatever, like, it got responses, people thought it was funny. It's like, if you can connect to the fans and give them something they like, you got to keep doing it.
Yes. Yeah,
because why stop giving them stuff they like? That's the whole. This business thrives on fans liking what they see on television.
Yes, exactly. It's like it's not about results like other sports will do. It's more like what can I get from these guys? If I like what they do, like you said, if I can connect with them somehow, it can either be like lines, it can be promos, it can be wrestling, it can be even finishers, moves. Like you said, this is the main goal, and at least she's been successful at it. 2 Slammy awards. I don't think she won like the Slammy of the year, but at least Bayley's getting her way up there.
And what year has been the year. And I was surprised. Now, obviously, Stone Cold's not going to be like, oh, yeah, you suck, like you're a bad worker or whatever. Well, one, that's not the truth with Bayley. But I was surprised how much he was really putting her over. And a lot of things he said, is stuff I really didn't think about. But then, when they show clips of the matches, I agree. He's like, as a heel and everything you do, he's like, you don't work super fast. If you have something in mind, like, oh, I'm going to, beat somebody with this stick, he's like, you walk pacefully. You do everything you do. You're not trying to fit 100 things into a minute. And he's like, when you lose or when you do all this stuff as a heel, you sell it good. You don't sell it like over the top. It's almost like her. Like this is really her. Like she's reacting how she would really react. Not over the top like The Miz, Morrison, New Day, even New Day, baby faces, but those 4 guys are all extremely over the top. Where Bayley is all believable.
He acknowledged a lot of times like how much of a good worker she is, like it's selling. Like I mean, the psychology of wrestling, like she gets it. Like for example, when they were talking about this match that you and me cover. When they did a Hell in a Cell, that was really cool, and they were going through some of the spots. Remember when she even loses, how like she stayed right there on the ground a little bit, like kind of just looking a little sad, a little bit shocked that like that happened. So it was good, and she always acknowledges Sasha as like her best friend when it comes to all these things about her personal growth, like as a wrestler, as a performer, as a worker. So like Sasha is pretty much like her sidekick, and they both feed off of each other when it comes to that relationship.
Oh yeah, and one little side note that I forgot until they showed the highlights. I do like the gear in that match. How Bayley was all black and Sasha was all white. It's like good versus evil. I like that.
Yes, and see, and those little things, like they always work on that. Bayley, Sasha, they know, they understand, and they even said like that's the one thing that I like is like when as they were talking about matches and stuff, they were saying, well, she and I been texting the whole night, like how are we going to put this match together? How are we going to?
Oh yeah, for the Iron Man match. So she's like, oh, if you look at the picture here, she's like, you can see the legit bags under my eyes. Like it's like those are a shoot because I wasn't sleeping at all.
Yes, so you can see like there's like that much love and passion for this to do it right, to make sure that like everything that they do makes sense, is meaningful, and I like that. For example, a good note that like I didn't even know, and like she acknowledged this, so this is really cool for you guys to know, is that she actually is like really good friends, and like a person that helped her a lot was like Serena Depp. Serena Depp, like as a current ANWA champion, she said she learned a lot from her. Because in the early days when she had the school, when she was getting ready, preparing herself to become a wrestler, Serena Depp is the one that like helped her out.
She was like Serena was doing autograph signings and like going around doing all this stuff. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna come with me, kid. Like I'll kind of show you the road." And probably gave her a whole bunch of pointers and stuff. And she even said, "What's his name? Tyson Kidd."
Tyson Kidd, yeah.
Yeah, Natalia's husband.
DJ Wilson. Yeah, not TJP, but TJ Wilson. Yes,
Yeah.
Natalia Southern, because he transitioned from being an active wrestler. He's a producer now. He and Jason Jordan, remember from the days of American Alpha? Like, yeah, they're both producers. So now, if you see a crappy match, go blame them. Both of them are really trying. No, I mean, if you see something legit, thank he and I right here on the screen. But if you see something shitty, go thank them. No, I mean, like, it was cool that she acknowledges all of that, and she said, "I have my people." It's like, I have my people. I know who I can trust, who I can go to for certain things. But the one thing I did also like is like what she said, like, oh, but also Stone Cold was, well, always trust your gut too, because you can only get all the advice in the world. But if you don't trust your gut and you know what's really working or not, you're never going to improve anywhere in life, in as a wrestler or as a character, like, because you gotta know what really works, you gotta feel it. So I like that they have a cool relationship, don't you think? Stone Cold and Bayley is more like a father and a daughter. I like that.
There's obviously, Bayley, like, is a huge, probably like fangirling. She's like, oh my God, Stone Cold, he's awesome. But like Stone Cold has that respect for her.
Yeah,
as a wrestler and stuff, and she has that respect for him. And like Stone Cold, he will tell it to anybody. He's not afraid to tell you the truth. And like you say, you got to trust your gut. You can listen to all these people, but you got to trust what you know is right. And he, speaking of that, he kept bringing up all her heel promos, all that stuff, which I know he was playing a couple of them, and I really liked. I think, like I said earlier, the heel stuff to me, as much as I love, the baby face, the heel is way better. She plays a better heel, and Stone Cold even said, he's like, I think you're a natural heel.
Yeah. No, and remember, like, we've been saying this since last year. We were saying like these two girls carry the whole company. I mean, Drew was also in the men. We're not going to say that Drew didn't do anything. But, like, as, remember, these girls were, like, on 3 shows in some weeks. Mm-hmm. Remember, it was Raw, NXT, Smackdown. They actually made it what they're supposed to be when it comes to the tag titles. Remember when they will say, oh, the tag titles can be defended anywhere? Well, we're going to be everywhere. So, like, they will be Raw, Smackdown, NXT, like you said, in the Great American Bash with Io Shirai. Like, everywhere they could have a match, they were there. And, to the point that, like, it translated into the Hell in a Cell match. So how are you not going to be so appreciative to, like, 2 girls that, like, actually pretty much went through the whole pandemic? Like the whole summer having matches with everybody. So I respect.
Yeah, and I like how she said, she's a big fan of Lita and everything, the Hardy Boys, all that, growing up around that time, or being into wrestling around that time. And she was like, oh, but I never, always wanted to do maybe like a table match or, something like that. She's like, but I never thought of doing like, a Hell in a Cell. That was never on my list, because it's like, that just doesn't look fun. But like you said, this feud, it was so good. These women were carrying at least SmackDown, if not, like you said, carrying pretty much the whole company. And what better blow off? I mean, to me, you have Sasha Banks win the Royal Rumble and do it at WrestleMania, but I don't think they wanted to have this feud drag out that long. So Hell in a Cell. So Hell in a Cell was probably the second best place you could have.
Like you said, like this should have been like, but at least you're not the only one. Everybody wanted to see that match. Sasha and Bayley at WrestleMania. They remember like 2 years ago they were teasing it. No, it never happened. And then 35 there was this blow off when they lost the titles to the Iconics and all of that. But in the end, I think everything was at least a way to justify it and to make it up to Bayley and Sasha on 2020. If you don't want to go the pandemic, no, but at least these 2 girls, the fact that they were able to pull this through and, be this legit, be this good for everybody, I can never say anything else. I think that's, for me, this girl and Sasha, like, pretty much carry the company throughout 2020 with the help of Drew. I'm not, diminishing Drew, but I'm saying these 2 gave us, like, entertainment and made us hate her, and that's what it is, and now her character can do, like you said, it's limitless now. It's not Keely, but she can do Hell in a Cell, like you said. She's been doing like tables. She can do ladder, everything. She was able to transform herself into a character that can do absolutely anything. So we'll see what happens with her. She even said her dream was to go to WrestleMania, winning the Royal Rumble. A lot of things happening. A lot of changes are going to be in the Royal Rumble. We'll see what happens, and we'll have more info when it comes to Monday Night Raw. But like, this is what we have for you guys. A pretty nice show of like Stone Cold just talking about Bayley, her career, stuff that, like you said, most.
And then one last thing of note to close it with, I do like, how we said, this legit title reign, and she said, oh, if you don't count that 5-day gap when I lost it to Charlotte and all that stuff, or however many, it wasn't very long. She said it was like over 500 days as SmackDown Women's, or her whole combined title reign as SmackDown Women's Champion. So she's like, that was so legit. Everything I did with Sasha. She's like, if I don't ever win another title again, at least, I feel like I've done enough. And I love how Stone Cold looks right at the camera. He's like, don't say that. He's like WWE. No, he's like, give her a belt again. He's like, don't be bullshit.
Yeah. Well, like you can, like you said, like it's Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and that's why we put it again. Boom. They love each other, like they're huge fans, and I'm pretty sure that like as Stone Cold, you feel like, hey, she's a wrestler like passionate for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this isn't like a stable coming on there, or like somebody, or like a Kelly where it's, or Eva Marie where it's like, oh, okay, this is
like no. Exactly. Like,
this is
Bayley's like she's a fan. It's like, let's say you and me will go there and like we become wrestlers, and it will be the same thing because we were fans. We know what it is. We know what it takes. We know like the passion.
And she respects the business too. She's not like, oh yeah, like I'm half decent. I don't need to worry about this match. We'll just go out there, do the normal spots, and be whatever. No, she wants to make every time she's out there either herself get over or her opponent get over.
Yeah, absolutely right. And then just to, like you said, like to finish, like she's not even controversial, online, no racy pictures, nothing, The only thing that she was a few days ago, she actually was looking for her brother. Like her brother went missing, but they found him right away, like seconds after she put a tweet and on the Instagram post, like boom, my brother was there. But like she always carries her career and her person, like really, really nice. No controversies. Everything she's supposed to do, she does really good. So that's how we're gonna end it. There you go. She wants to go up here, with like the fours, like with Becky and Sasha and Stone Cold. I guess they love their beer. According to them, is IP, right? They said it's an IP.
Yeah, the Broken Skull IP. Yep.
Yeah, and they say that it's actually nice. Was well, at some point Robert will have that beer, or let's say at some point we're gonna go to the Broken Skull sessions and talk about our show.
There you go. We'll get the Broken Skull IP and we'll get some bubbly and we'll compare.
Yeah, and with Stone Cold, we'll be able to tell which one's good.
And Undertaker wine.
That's Undertaker wine. That's what we gotta do it. So thank you, family. I hope you guys enjoy this. Like I said, go watch it. It's a pretty good show. The only thing Paul and I were asking is like we maybe bring more legends now. People that like there's more stuff to like actually learn about because like Bayley, Drew a little bit.
I don't mind current guys, but if you're gonna do current guys, give me like an AJ Styles.
Yes.
And but like you got to be like, oh, tell us about, because you can talk about Impact. Oh, you wrestle Kurt Angle. You can talk about that. Oh, you wrestle Samoa Joe. That's all. They're WWE guys.
Yes.
So you can talk about that. And in Japan, that made you a main event guy. That's what kind of got you noticed to bring you here to WWE. You can talk about that. But I think they did Bayley. They did Drew because it's like, in my opinion, and I'm sure WWE's, that's the top man and the top woman right now in your company. So, hey, let's do something for them. And then at least maybe the younger fans who maybe don't know who all these old legends are, they can at least see the current guys. But I think it's mostly going to be legends. I think they're going to go back to maybe do a couple legends. I
would much rather see, I told you, Triple H, Edge, Shawn, guys that like are still in the company. Maybe
Shawn would be good, especially if he's like, they talk about like, oh, if you didn't drop that belt to me, Taker was gonna beat your ass.
Exactly, like stuff like, see, that would be cool because those are the things that we want to know. But we're not saying that Bayley's episode was bad; it was great, and like this girl deserves the world, and hopefully this year is even better for her. So family, thank you so very much for being with us. Don't forget, tomorrow we have Monday Night Raw. Jean Paul and myself talking about every single thing that's going to happen in that show. Lots of information. That's all we can say. Lots of information, lots of changes. So, don't forget to also subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, every single one of them. And where else, Paul?
And make sure you also follow us, Rope Break on Facebook, the OG Rope Break on Twitter, Original Rope Break on Instagram, and of course, the home of the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, the Original Rope Break.
Thank you, family. We'll see you tomorrow. And you and me have one more thing that is left to say, and that is...